The amphibious invasion taking place off the jetties and docks of Incheon, an action officially known as Operation Chromite, was among the boldest and most technically complex engagements in modern military annals. The man who conceived the invasion, prevailing over enormous doubts in Washington, was General Douglas MacArthur, and his name would forever be associated with it. But the officer most directly responsible for executing the details of the initial landing, the unsung and largely unknown architect of the marine assault, was in many ways MacArthur's opposite. He was Oliver Prince Smith, commander of the 1st Marine Division, one of the great underrated generals in American history. From the decks of the command ship USS Mount McKinley, Smith watched the proceedings as best he could through shifting curtains of smoke. He squinted into his field glasses as the ship heaved in the swells. In the distance, the small landing craft, having butted against the seawall, were in position. In the bow of each vessel, Marines raised a pair of scaling ladders, and the waiting boats treaded the water like enormous bugs with antennae quivering. The leathernecks began to scale the ladders and vanished from view, but the radio reports that came in from the spotter planes were all positive. The Marines were moving into the city now, swarming over the causeways and salt pans, already seizing industrial complexes and other installations along the ruined harbor. Smith's division was a formidable fighting force. Though it had been hastily thrown together at Camp Pendleton, California, most of the division's officers and non-coms were seasoned warriors, men of the old breed who had served in the bitter World War II battles of the Pacific, at places like Guadalcanal and Okinawa. They could load jeeps with their decorations, said one account, and would need a truck to carry off their Purple Hearts. Battalion for battalion, the 1st Marine Division was as fierce and as disciplined as anything the United States had to offer. It was the strongest division in the world, boasted one Marine captain who served under Smith. I thought of it as a Doberman, a dangerous hound straining at the leash, wanting nothing more than to sink its fangs into the master's enemy. Smith was enormously relieved by the progress of the invasion. The resistance was proving tepid. Either the North Korean defenders had been caught off guard, or they were overwhelmed by the intensity of the firestorm. But Smith stopped short of celebrating. He was superstitious of good fortune. As an assistant division commander at the World War II Battle of Peleliu, he had witnessed a senseless loss of life, the result of intelligence failures and strategic mistakes not of his making. Scarred by the events at Peleliu, he tended to proceed with a thoroughgoing sense of caution. In his own experience, it was overconfidence, more than any other single factor, that caused men to die. He felt a little uneasy that MacArthur had invited a gaggle of journalists aboard the Mount McKinley to follow the invasion. It struck Smith as unseemly to have assembled so many members of the press to capture what MacArthur's people confidently expected would be his moment of triumph. This is a public relations war, Smith wrote in disdain. We are overrun with onlookers. Smith had spent a lot of time with MacArthur aboard the Mount McKinley. During the past few days, as part of the larger convoy, they had steamed over from Japan in this 460-foot floating command center, a plush flagship tricked out with all manner of radar, radio telephones, and other advanced communications equipment. Smith found the Supreme Commander initially impressive, occasionally entertaining, but ultimately insufferable. MacArthur, he said, is a born actor who puts a lot of drama into his conversation. He has, to his credit, many outstanding accomplishments, Smith allowed. However, the pomposity of his pronouncements is a little wearing.